Thank you for carrying us. Thank you for walking beside us. Thank you for all the times that you just helped us. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Good morning.
All right.
My name is Natalie.
Hi, Natalie.
Today I want to share my God story. I grew up with my mom and two brothers. My parents were divorced when I was about 4 years. My mom had difficulties raising 3 small kids by herself. We had a lot of debts, and she was depressed most of my childhood. At the age of 12, I started smoking and drinking. It was even so bad that I even drank alcohol at school. I got expelled from it, which is no surprise. I also got expelled from 2 other schools as well, simply because I had behavior issues. And if I even was present at school, I would just sleep during class, or I would just sneak out during breaks and wandered around on the streets instead of going back. I was living, like I said, on the streets. I would hang out with friends. I was barely at my house. I would not have friends over at my place simply because I was embarrassed about the stuff that we didn't have. At some point, we did even not had a decent carpeting because the debt collectors took all of our stuff. And yes, they even took our carpeting. At the age of 18, my mom decided to go and live with her partner, which is still our partner today. And we had a choice. We could either join her or just stay where we were. It was like an hour from where we lived. And we decided to stay where we were. Before she left, she has asked me for forgiveness because she told me that the first 6 months of my life, she didn't want to take care of me. She was suffering from a postnatal depression. I did not felt loved, accepted, wanted by her and my dad, who has not been in the picture for many years. Short after my mom left, my aunt asked me if I wanted to come and live with her and her family because my brother and we didn't get along as well. So I moved. I started working. I had my little car, made money, I made tons of friends, and I thought I had a stable life. And then all the physical and mental issues with lots of panic attacks came along, and I fell from one depression to another. I could talk to my aunt and my uncle about my struggles, but I always thought they didn't fully understand me. The panic attacks kept getting worse. I got them everywhere. If I were at my work, at home, in church, even when I was out, clubbing with my friends. They thought I've lost it, and so did I. I cried a lot. I often cried myself to sleep. I felt lost. I felt lonely. I felt broken, and I felt sorry for myself. I wanted to end my life. So one day I was waiting at the train station, waiting for my turn to come, and I thought, if I would. So I decided to get help. I went to my GP, and I finally accepted the medication that he wanted to give me, way back. I always refused him. I thought, no, I can do this without. After a while, I just continued living my life. I continued going to church. I wanted to learn more about God, so I started to read my Bible. I did not understand any of it, but I just kept on reading. I started praying, and I would put sticky notes on my bedroom wall and my night shelves to remind me what God has to say about fear and anxiety and worries. I would sing all-night prayers. I would sing gospels over and over again, and I would write letters to God. To my frustration, he did not reply. I didn't give up, though. I became a kids' church leader at our community, so I could tell kids about God, and I would understand it better myself. Usually it goes the other way around, but okay. Kids' Bible are far more easy. And I was in church before, during, after service. I was there all the time. I honestly thought that I could earn the love of God not knowing that it is given by His grace and His grace only. So, I still didn't feel the Lord's presence. I thought it had to do something with my community, so I stepped out of it. And I started looking for people that really know God, so, they could ask Him why He was not replying to me. I got in touch with some people that led me to home Bible study groups. I went to visit a lot of different churches. Damascus was one of them. And I went to a lot of worship nights. And I made a lot of Christian friends too. November 14, 2014, I went to this thing called Night of Hope in Skinner. And there it was. God spoke to me. I could just hear him for the very first time. I cried the entire sermon. And that night, I gave my life to God. So, a few days from today, it has been 1 year since I stopped taking any medications after 10 years. And, I still deal with some fears even today. I still deal with anxiety and worries, but I'm not afraid to get in that boat along with God and cross the stormy river with Him. Imagine me and loving what I see when the mirror looks at me, 'cause I imagine me in a place of no insecurities, and I'm finally happy 'cause I imagine me letting go of all of the ones who hurt me, 'cause they never did deserve me. Can you imagine me saying no to thoughts that try to control me, remembering all you told me? Lord, can you imagine me over what my mama said and healed from what my daddy did? And I wanna live and not read that page again. Imagine me being free, trusting you totally, finally I can. Imagine me, and I admit it was hard to see you being in love with someone like me. Finally I can. Imagine me in a world where nobody has to live afraid because of your love is gone away. Can you imagine me letting go? Can you imagine me? Imagine me being free, trusting you totally, finally I can. Imagine me, I admit it was hard to see you being in love with someone like me. Finally I can. Imagine me being free, trusting you totally, finally I can. Imagine me, and I admit it was hard to see you being in love with someone like me. Finally I can. Imagine me. This song is dedicated to people like me, those that struggle with insecurities, acceptance, and even self-esteem. You never felt good enough, you never felt pretty enough, but imagine God whispering in your ear, letting you know that everything that had happened now is now gone. Gone.
Stand with us as we sing one more song, knowing that we don't have to stand in fear, but we can stand in the love of Christ. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love.
shared. Thank you so much for sharing that, Natalie. It's so important for our church to be a safe place for vulnerable people. And so if any of that resonated with you, what Natalie was sharing, we do have a care team here at the church. So if you are dealing with abuse or trauma or mental illness or spiritual struggles or emotional pain, talk to me after the service, or could the care team raise their hands? Patrick, Christine, and Luke, you can talk to them as well. We'd love to make an appointment and just sit down and listen and pray for you and help you connect with the resources you need. Like Natalie mentioned, getting help from her doctor, that's important too. So you don't have to suffer alone. If you can't face living your life another day, we'd really like to be here for you. The scripture reading today is from Proverbs 1 through 6. These are the Proverbs of Solomon, David's son, king of Israel. The purpose of these Proverbs is to teach people wisdom and discipline and to help them understand wise sayings. Through these Proverbs, people will receive instruction in discipline, good conduct, and doing what is right, just, and fair. These Proverbs will make the simple-minded clever. They will give knowledge and purpose to young people. Let those who are wise listen to these Proverbs and become even wiser. And let those who understand receive guidance by exploring the depth of meaning in these Proverbs, parables, wise sayings, and riddles. The word of the Lord.
But for the next few months, I want us to be looking a little more at the book of Proverbs specifically. So be looking at themes that are in Proverbs, but also trying to connect that with various parts of the Bible. That's not just in there, but then how we see that coming back in themes with Jesus and through other parts. Wisdom is not just about having a bunch of pithy sayings. It's about actually being able to know how to use that. So sort of the title of the sermon series as we go through Proverbs will be Life-Wise, of how do we live wisely? How do we connect with that wisdom to what we do? And today I want to talk about the beginning of that, of getting wisdom. These Proverbs that you find sort of close to the middle of the Bible, they're sort of like advice verses. They give advice on so many different parts of our lives. That's family and friendships, on government, on emotions and work and sex and disagreement and reputation and planning things and more and more and more. They often come in little couplets where they're one thing and then the other thing and how they contrast with each other. But first, to talk about why these are important of getting wisdom. So we start at the very beginning, just like our Bible reading today, Proverbs 1 through 6. So the book was mostly combined from sayings that are attributed to King Solomon. Now, as you get later in the book, there are several times where it says, oh, these are the sayings of the wise or the saying of some other people. So it's not just Solomon, and we don't know if these were sort of consolidated later or how that got put together or when they consolidated, how all that worked. But a lot of this comes from Solomon, or is at least attributed to him. And so Solomon is seen as a bit like the father of Hebrew wisdom. Just like you would say, like, oh, the father of modern medicine, or the father of this, that Solomon is the one that people are like, oh, Solomon is so wise. Why I want to start with that is because of how it, I guess, connects with me and my feelings coming into this. So what I want to do is try to pass along wisdom. I don't know if you've ever had times if you feel like you don't have a lot of wisdom to pass along, and you feel like you're insufficient in your wisdom. Like, oh, who am I to say some of these things? I certainly have those feelings at times. And looking at Solomon, strangely enough, comforts me with that. Because he was someone who is seen as wise, he's called this very wise man, but when you read through his life, and we're given pieces of his life throughout parts of the Old Testament, he was a man who was flawed. He made mistakes. He made some of the same mistakes over and over and over again. He made some of the same mistakes that his dad made, King David. He made mistakes that set up the people to follow after him and put them in a bad position. And eventually, by the time the kingdom got passed along, it wasn't in necessarily good shape. So, though Solomon was quite wise and had something worth sharing, he also had his weaknesses. And so I hope that you can hear this as not me trying to say, look at me, I am wise and I know all. I have my weaknesses as well. But hopefully I can pass along wisdom just like Solomon did. What's the purpose of Proverbs? Well, he gives us some things to start with. And I'd say first, look at the underlined words. The purpose of having these Proverbs is to teach, is to help people understand, but it's not just stuff for getting into your head. Also, to help them to live, to do. Wisdom that doesn't get lived out doesn't help much. And I'll even sometimes question whether that counts as wisdom then. The goal of Proverbs, the goal of having this wisdom is so that, yes, we can learn and understand that it can be something that's a part of all of us. And that's why you'll also see like, the picture I've used is a body. It's the whole thing. It's not just a head. I'm not just trying to show a brain, but I'm trying to show a system that connects with all of us. That is all the way through of understanding and doing. And then when you look at some of the words in bold, you have things like there's wisdom, there's discipline, right, just, fair, insight, knowledge, discernment, successful. The goal is that people will be able to understand what to do to live this way, that then people will truly live this way. Discipline is not a dirty word. That's one of the things that when I saw it, like discipline got in there several times. I went, ooh, living discipline isn't bad. And sometimes our culture's like, especially, I'll say it, we're in carnival period. And I've heard people say, during carnival, we lose our minds, we go crazy. Proverbs don't encourage us to go crazy. Proverbs encourage us to discipline. That doesn't mean the Proverbs discourage us from enjoyment. They certainly don't, or discourage us from rejoicing or celebrations. But discipline isn't a bad thing with it, and it's supposed to help us with having insight and knowledge and going through all this process as well. So that's a bit of why I think it's helpful for us, because you see, at the end is to give knowledge and discernment to the young. And the verses after that say, may the wise listen to these and also gain wisdom. So it's not just Proverbs are for people who are young and immature. Hopefully, wisdom is something that resounds with people, whether they're wise yet or yet to become wise. But especially for those of us who would call ourselves young. It's weird because I'm not sure what I am anymore. So my style is like, oh, I'm young. And I'm like, I'm youngish. Some of you are certainly younger than me. Some of you are older than me and you still want to count yourselves as young. I'm not against that. But then Proverbs are for you. And I believe that they're for all of us, that to look into it and find wisdom is not something that you have to wait until you're over 70 years old for. Later in the Bible, Apostle Paul, he's writing to his protege, Timothy, and he tells him, like, hey, I want you to, the way you live, that your knowledge, that your training, that all of those things, that people will be able to look at that and respect you for it, has a similarity of, like, you may look at yourself as young, but you live wise now. Jesus later tells a story, a parable, about a man who is a wise builder. This is what a wise person does. When they're building a house, they don't build it just on like top of sandy ground and have no foundation. But the wise person will dig their foundation down deep, put the foundation upon a rock, and then build on top of that. So that when storms come and all this other stuff comes, there's a solid foundation. Now, no one has told you, your foundation doesn't get built when you're 55 in your life. Some people have to go back, scrap the whole thing, and start building a foundation. I'm not saying that cannot happen, but it's much better if you can build your foundation, teens, 20s, like you're working on that foundation, many of us. And you want to be wise when you're building the foundation. Because if you build a foundation foolishly and then build on top of that in a wise way, the foolish foundation will still cause you problems. So starting with wisdom early is valuable because you start with your foundation and then build from there. Nobody builds the roof of the house first. And since parties typically go on in the penthouse at the top of the house, that means you don't start there, you start with the wisdom. A warning about Proverbs to go with though. Proverbs, they're not magic charms or scientific formulas. What I feel is one of the most important proverbs of all of Proverbs is one that people don't often use when talking about Proverbs, and it's Proverbs 26, verse 9. It says, a proverb in the mouth of a fool is like a thorn bush in a drunkard's hand. Now, I don't know if you've seen drunkards holding thorn bushes and what they do with them. I actually haven't. I don't want to, I will say. But what I do know is that that's not what you want to run into, right? You can use a proverb, you can have it down perfect, and use it in a way that causes you pain, and you can cause pain for other people. I'm assuming a thorn bush in a drunkard's hand is going to lead to them getting hurt, and maybe others as well. Why do I think that's so important? Because people can use a proverb, and it sounds great. But if you don't apply it at the right time, then it might not be applied well. In the same chapter, Proverbs 26, there's these two different proverbs that are given. One of them, do not respond to a fool in the same foolish way, or you'll become like him. But respond to a fool in their folly, or else they'll think they're smart. And as, wait a second, which one am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to respond to them in their folly, or am I not supposed to? That's part of where wisdom comes in handy. Sometimes you should use one, sometimes you should use the other. And so I know people who, they read Proverbs and they go like, oh, well, it's just contradictory. There's more to the situation. So often we want to make things just like nice, we want them to be like Proverbs. It's just easy, put it in my box, it works perfectly every time. Scientific formula, ding. But so many of these Proverbs, they involve people. People are different. You're different from you, and from you, and from you, and from you. And so there's more to each of those stories. So my warning isn't saying don't get into Proverbs. Do study Proverbs and learn wisdom, but just realize that it's not going to be, oh, well, this will work every time this way. You have to be like the wise that apply it well. But it's good to get wisdom. So, Proverbs 4, verse 7, one of the other most important, if not maybe more important than Proverbs 26. Proverbs 4, 7, the beginning of wisdom is this. Get it. Though it costs all you have, get understanding. I think that means that Solomon is trying to encourage you to get wisdom. We saw Proverbs 1 through 4 saying over and over, I want you to get wisdom, I want you to get understanding, I want you to be able to have discipline and right and just and fair and successful. Get wisdom. You're like, I don't feel wise, what should I do? I know it seems hard, right? I don't feel wise, what should I do? Get wisdom. Duh. I'll give you some recommendations as we go. Though it costs all you have, get understanding. If you had to rank, what are the things you are running after right now? Say the top 4. Before I started this talk, would you have put wisdom on your list? We got 1.
I believe it.
Truly, some people put that through and went, I want to be wise, I want to have wisdom. But so often, we're chasing everything else. With all am I getting, what do I get? Well, I want to get the answers to my tests, yes. I want to get enough for my mortgage. I want to get my kid's into a good school. I want it. There's so much that we want to get. He says, with all you're getting, though it costs all you have, get wisdom. Sometimes we try to bypass that. You know what? I can avoid the wisdom now because I can get to what I really want. Solomon is trying to say, what you really want is wisdom. That should be higher on your list. And all these other things. And through the first 9 chapters of Proverbs don't come across the same as the rest of it. Like when we think of Proverbs, we think of more like the last 2/3 of it, where it has all these like pithy sayings and couplets. But the first 9 chapters have less of that, and is a lot of it of a dad speaking to his son. He says, "My son, get wisdom, seek these things." And there are lots of benefits of wisdom that get listed among them. Wisdom will offer you long life in her right hand and riches and honor in her left. She's a tree of life to those who embrace her. Those who hold her tightly are happy. Wisdom will save you from evil people. It will save you from those who are twisted with their words. She will guide you down delightful paths. She will protect you. She will guard you. She'll make you great. She will honor you. She will place a lovely wreath on your head. She will present you with a beautiful crown. Now, how much of the other stuff that you're seeking is going to do all that? Wisdom is worth it. Wisdom is good. And that was just some of the ones taken from those chapters. Wisdom is put forward as something so valuable that it'll cost everything you have, you should get it. Which reminds me of one of Jesus' other parables, actually several of them, which I love how much Jesus commends that. And I think maybe Jesus was drawing from Proverbs. Because later in Proverbs, in chapter 3 and also in chapter 8, it says some of these things, and we see it throughout, of how valuable it is. We're told that wisdom is more profitable than silver, yields better return than gold. Wisdom is more precious than rubies. Rubies keeps being brought up in there. Nothing you desire can compare with her. And chapter 8 says almost the exact same thing except reversed. It's interesting. Wisdom is worth it. Taking your time to stop and focus on getting wisdom. So many of us live lives that are really busy. We're running to things, or we're trying to fill up our time with entertainment when we aren't busy. How often do we say, I got free time, what am I going to do? Let's get me some wisdom. If you start saying that, you'll already just start sounding wise. You're hanging out with your friends, what do we do tonight? Let's get some wisdom. They might look at you like you're crazy. But, I mean, can you honestly tell me that it's a bad thing to say? Who's going to start that in the conversation? All your friends will be like, you're an idiot. Let's get some wisdom. Why do you want that? She's more precious than rubies, y'all. Come on. She's going to put a crown of, like, righteousness on my head. Wisdom is worth it. In the biography of Jesus that Luke wrote, very early on, we're told that Jesus is a child. And he grows in wisdom, and in stature, and in favor with God, and with humans, with people. And it says that 2 different times. Jesus, he grew in wisdom. Now if Jesus, the Messiah, Jesus the Son of God, Jesus the bread of life, Jesus the living Word, if Jesus grew in wisdom, you think we could too? You think it's worthwhile? If Jesus thought pursuing wisdom was a good idea, I'm with him. Let's pursue wisdom. And I hope that as we study Proverbs, it'll make us more like Jesus. I'm not going out of the New Testament so that we can avoid Jesus. I'm actually trying to find Jesus more and more everywhere I look, especially in the Bible. So hopefully as we go through this, just as Jesus grew in wisdom, we will too. I said that a lot of the first 9 chapters of Proverbs is a father talking to his son, but that isn't the only voice that we're given. You've heard several times, wisdom is referred to as a woman, and at least one of the chapters is pretty much wisdom personified as a woman and the call that she's giving. So whether it's easier for you to hear this being like a dad who's offering you wisdom, or whether this is like a woman who's offering you wisdom, whichever one you want to listen to, I recommend both of them. But here is part of what wisdom says in Proverbs chapter 8. Now we're told, doesn't wisdom call out? At the highest point along the way, beside the gate that's leading into the city, she's crying aloud. And there's so many more things, I've just put a few of them. But she said, listen, for I have trustworthy things to say, and I love all who love me. Those who search will surely find me. My children, listen to me, because blessed are those who keep my ways. Be wise. For those who find me find life and receive favor from the Lord. Already is connecting me with Luke chapter 2 when I said Jesus grew in wisdom, stature, and in favor with God. Wisdom already told us that. Grow in wisdom, and that is part of what God values. My 2 sons, they go to a school, and I was speaking with one of the other parents on the playground, I think last week. And earlier in the day I'd seen she was worried about something, and then in the afternoon she was looking at her like, oh, how are you? She's like, oh, I got really good news. Her husband is a professor who had applied for a grant for 3 years, and the first 2 years didn't get it, and this year finally received the grant, and she was so excited. It was such good news. And then she was trying to tell me about what this grant was for. She's like, it's something to do with, I don't know. Yeah, I don't really remember. Because I mean, he tried for these 2 years. It seemed impossible anyway, so I said, oh, well, at least it's good that he believed in himself. And her response was, I believe in him. I just don't always listen to him when he's talking. My response to that was, it sounds like something people would say about God too. And she then said, that'd probably be a good sermon illustration. I said, is it okay if I use it? She said yes. So know that I was allowed to share this story. And it struck me as funny as it came across, and yet as honestly true. So many people say, yeah, I believe in God. I just don't always listen when he's talking to me. And for as funny as that gets, it also gets quite painful when we actually do that. Painful for us. Because on the flip side of wisdom and all the wonderful things that wisdom offers you, we're also given this picture of there's the woman folly, and all of her stuff sounds great, but ends in death, destruction, bad stuff happening. That's also what Proverbs gives these 2 options. So my hope going forward for this next time frame, as we listen to Proverbs, as we study it, is that you'll actually listen to God. Not just believe that he exists, but believe that he will reward those who diligently seek him and his wisdom. So 2 quick recommendations of some ways. How do I get wisdom? How do I go with that? Read Proverbs. If you want to learn something about something, you read the book or you find it online or whatever. Great thing, Bibles are online. Aren't those? Said a prayer meeting yesterday. I loved it. If anyone has their Bible or their telephone, please pull out this Bible verse. Yep. You can find the Bible on your phone. That means you can find wisdom on your phone. Proverbs has 31 chapters. One of the ways that people give like, oh, here's a nice thing to do. Some months have 31 days. So if you just read one a day, you can finish all of Proverbs in a month. We are currently in a month that typically has 28 days. This year has 29 days. But we're almost done with it. And you know what happens next month? 31 days. So here's a challenge I'm offering to you. By the end of March, read through all of the Proverbs. And some of them may make no sense. Some of them may make really good sense. Some of them you may want to reread. I recommend it. But take that time, that's one of the ways. And then by the summer, another wise recommendation, read through all of Jesus' words in his biography. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Jesus is our example of what it looks like to live in wisdom. So, look at what he did. Listen to what he said. Don't just believe in him, but actually listen to him when he's speaking to us. So those are 2 ways to start. And then as you find things, if there's something you're like, wow, this is totally practical, put it into practice. And I can't tell you which one of those that's going to be for you, because there's a whole lot of problems. But even as I've been reading through it several times over the last few months, yeah, there are things I'm like, oh yeah, it totally sticks out. So with all the things that you're searching for right now, everything else going on in your life, I would say get wisdom and be willing to make extra time in your life to get it. Because nothing you desire will compare with wisdom. That's what we're told. And though it costs all you got, it's worthwhile. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you that you have the wisdom of all of the ages. Our God who has known the beginning from the end, you know what we need. You know how we should live. And you want to give us direction and encouragement to live our lives wisely. So I pray that we would choose to follow you in that. May we have ears that are able to hear. May we have lives that are willing to obey. And then may we have mouths that are willing to pass on what we're learning, because we may feel like we are imperfect in wisdom, because we are. But what we do have, help us to share that with those around us. Thank you for offering us your great gift of wisdom. You give good gifts. I just want to say thank you for that. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.